Hello, friends, and welcome back to the Bordeaux Show. I'm back at Military Museum run by our dear friend David, and we're here to talk about mythology. Well, basically, to give context where we can talk about and discuss Georgian and Caucasian mythologies. First, I think you need to understand historical and mythical context. And I'm
Yes,
here with
indeed.
my friend Misha Shavalashvili and frequent guest to our videos.
It's always a pleasure.
Thank you, thank you. We are armed and armored in traditional Georgian garb, which has been worn by our people for thousands and thousands of years.
And still is.
And still is. History still lives on here. And this is why what I wanted to talk about with you, the ancient history and mythic narratives. We all know that mythology comes from ancient history. There are, of course, Indo-European mythical lines, there are Near Eastern mythical lines, Eastern mythical, and there is also a narrative that unites them and brings them back to where? Here, in the Caucasus. Yes.
Yes, indeed. If we want to talk about local mythology, Caucasian, Georgian, we have to mention one sad fact. I don't like to start the
Yeah.
topic with bad facts, but well, it's where we are.
Yes.
There is pretty small amount of knowledge about the so-called ancient, we can call it pagan
Yes, yes,
mythology
yes.
here.
But I would say that unlike the other world where pagan traditions died out, in the high mountains of the Caucasus, in the north and in the south, as in Georgia and the North Caucasian peoples, the traditions survived and intermixed with Christianity.
Yeah, and in the end, we get somebody may call it weird, somebody may call it interesting, but it's almost chemical reaction of
Yes,
different cultural and different
yes.
worldview points mixed up
It's
together.
really funny when you read about ancient heroes such as Amirani, and then Jesus Christ and Saint George shows up
Yeah.
in those stories.
I'll
And
want to drive very deeply into the topic because,
yes,
as I remember, we are going to discuss it more
yes,
separately. But
we're going to talk about it broadly, but we want to create an image that is existent. That yes, unfortunately, we don't have original sources like we have in Greek mythology.
well, yeah,
Yeah,
we don't have them in Greek mythology too. All we have is literature based on
yes,
mythology. But
literature that were written hundreds and hundreds of years ago as well.
yeah, of course.
Yes, mythical age is Bronze Age, or historically, and the oldest surviving text or story, the Iliad, is
Well, it's not the oldest.
well,
Theogony by Hesiodus was elder, as I suppose.
well, yes, but it was written down in classical age.
Yeah.
Yes, few thousand and maybe even 1,000 years later, because it's supposed that mythical age was in 13th century BC and the classical age was in 3rd century. So 1,000 years later.
It's if we talk about Greeks, of course, let's
Yeah.
not forget the great amount of Caucasian vibes in Argonautica.
Yeah, of course, the whole myth is about coming to
Yeah.
Caucasus to take our knowledge and secrets away,
And our gold.
and our gold, and our women.
Yeah,
Yes,
that's
but
true.
Jokes on them. Taking
Yeah.
women, they
Yeah, if we are talking about Medea,
yeah,
yeah, you can take this kind of women away.
yeah, you can keep them.
If we don't stay only into Hellenistic world,
Yeah,
there is also different side about ancient myths. It's myth of Gilgamesh.
yes, of course, Gilgamesh and Enkidu, where we have first evidence of a flood myth.
Yeah, and where do we go through that flood myth? We go
Yeah.
to the biblical flood, and
Yes,
we go to the Caucasian mountains.
of Ararat.
Yeah,
Yes,
specifically of
Caucasus.
Ararat,
Yeah.
where Noah's Ark stopped.
Yes, according to we have sources, of course, in Gilgamesh story that up in the north there is this mountain where
Napishti's boat
yes,
stopped.
Utnapishtim stopped, and of course we have biblical narrative, and we shouldn't forget there is also Greek narrative.
Yeah, but
where
it's not connected to Caucasian
it's
mountains.
yes, it is.
Oh, wow.
It is. I figured it out. Prometheus is the father, Greek Noah.
Deucalionis.
Yes, he's the father and the one who told him
Well,
about
yeah,
it.
you know.
If you think about it, and if you
Yeah.
think about it, where was Prometheus chained to? In the Caucasus Mountains, of
Yeah,
course.
and now I guess what you're going to do. You are going to make parallels between Prometheus and Amirani,
Well,
and I'm
no,
going to say that no.
no, I will not make that mistake because
There is, of course, similarity among two these creatures, heroes,
yes, but I think it's closer to a mythical narrative rather than same hero with different names.
yeah, but they both got the same ending, kind of.
Well, if you think about it, Loki as well got chained to a root tree, but there are also it's a mythical narrative
Yeah,
to
of
chain
course.
a god. Basically, what I'm trying to build here that Indo-European, Proto-Indo-European, of course, come back to Yamnaya culture in the North Caucasus, and there's also a probable cause to theorize through genetic evidence that not just Proto-Indo-Europeans come from the Caucasus, but also there is three, but let's talk about main two genetic lines that come from the Caucasus, J and G haplogroup. J haplogroup is evident in pre-Indo-European expansion, early European farmers that came from Anatolia and South Caucasus and brought agriculture to the South Europe and Central Europe later. And our haplogroup was derived from North Caucasian peoples that brought, of course, Indo-European culture. But there is also ancient bloodline of J haplogroup that is evident in Eastern Georgia and Eastern Caucasus. So G haplogroup is evident in Western Caucasus, where culture civilization is from. Eastern Georgia, where Iberian civilization is from. That is ancient Caucasian, ancient Kartvelian civilization. That also that J haplogroup is evident in both Jewish and Arabian people. So Near Eastern and Western civilization all comes from these mountains.
Yeah, about I cannot speak a lot about genetics,
Yes.
but I can tell you a couple of facts about that Colchis and Iberian people. Not Colchis, more Diaochians. Like
Yes, yes.
lot of this Iberian and southwestern Georgian people, they also came from Anatolia. So
Yes.
it was like double way. The Morsks, for example, go from Anatolia here and get agriculture back to Anatolia and from Anatolia throughout Europe.
Yes. Anatolia is, of course, now habitated by Turks, and before then Greeks, and before then Anatolian,
Lydians
Hittites, and
yeah.
other civilizations.
Okay, you mentioned Hittites.
Yes.
Let's not forget that early Kartvelian tribes, they were part of Hittite conglomeration.
Yes. According to some theories, Chattians were Hittites later. Hittites are Indo-European people who came first migration and conquered these people.
Yeah, they were polyethnic because
Yes.
they were Indo-Europeans, but different tribes were united inside the Hittite
Yes.
Empire.
So basically, in Hittite Empire, we had Kartvelian people, such as, for example, Chalibs, who invented iron work. And we also have different Kartvelian peoples, of course, Indo-Europeans and native Anatolian farmer peoples.
Yes.
And that culture is one of the oldest civilizations we can attribute to Europe, I suppose.
Not Hittite.
Yes, of course, we have mythic evidence of those historic evidence in Caucasian mythology. We will talk about similarities, and let's not forget other Indo-European culture.
Yeah, I wanted to go there right
Persians
now. Yes.
and Iranian peoples.
Iran people,
Yes.
so-called Aryan Sparsny.
Yes.
They brought here not only their cultural and political dominance, and sadly or not sadly, it's very old history, but it was.
Yes. Our oldest adversary.
Yeah. It was also their big mythological.
Yes.
Yeah, like Eastern Indo-European people's mythology has a big impact on Georgian mythology as far as we know it, and on Georgian folklore.
Well, I would argue that, of course, there are popular Indo-European, Indo-Iranian mythical figures such as Divs or Devi here. And there is also theory that Amiran Darejanian is a Iranian word. But I suppose I personally want to think that unfortunately Georgians have this bad habit of taking other people's names and replacing them because currently a lot of Russian words are used instead of Georgian words
Arabic,
and
Turkish,
Arabic, Turkish.
Iranian, yeah.
And I think it's more of that shared mythological narrative that existed in the Caucasus, and we brought in Iranic through Iranic influence those words.
Okay, Bordo, about thieves or devs. You want me to talk a bit more about it? Or?
Sure, sure. Let's discuss who are the
Because
thieves. They're
we,
really important in
yeah,
Caucasian and Iranic mythology.
before we go into discussing who are the thieves, because I want you to speak more
Yes.
about it, because you look
I
more
look like one,
it.
yes.
Yeah. I will tell you one similarity between Western mythology folklore, because devs here, Devi, they are part of folklore.
Yes.
Iranic devs or devas, Indo-Iranic, they're part of mythology, and we can find a similarity where Indian gods and Iranian demons called like devas, they evolved or devolved, I would say, more into Georgian devis, and we can say the same about how Scandinavian Jotuns, godlike giants, devolved into trolls.
Exactly.
So that's why
same as Titans in Greek mythology devolved into giants,
yes,
and then devolved into cyclops.
Yes, although in Greek mythology there are also ancient cyclops who are cool and
well, those are primordial cyclops.
Yes, but my point is that because of this, I don't know, maybe it's proven theory, maybe it's not. I really don't know when I'm speaking this, but that is my theory that the Devis, they came from there, and because they were something conqueror brought or foreign influence brought here in Georgian folklore, and we don't know how Devis were presented in Georgian mythology, who carried a lot of Eastern Iberian official cults carried a lot of similarities with Iranians. That's why I think that the greater demons of Zoroastrianism, the Devas, turned into funny but dangerous troll-like ogres.
I suppose. I personally think that, like in Indo-European mythology, there is a narrative of gods versus the evil giants. Same narrative existed, but the words, because there is a massive influence of Iranian culture
in Eastern Georgia.
Yes, exactly, and we have most evidence from the mountainous regions of eastern Georgia. These figures, for example, later account of Georgian paganism, we have Armazi, yes,
main god of the Eastern Georgian pantheon.
There used to be a giant robotic statue.
He's a golden warrior with a shiny spear, and
and we had two other fellow warriors, Gatsi and Gaim.
One silver, one copper. And we also had Zadeni. But about Armazi, there is interesting. There are two theories.
Yes, one thing that Armazi is Georgian and Caucasian because Armenians also have him as a figure.
Well, about Armenian, I will go.
I
will interrupt.
There's really a lot of topic we can go into, but we want to just give you a base understanding that influence. So Armazi was thought for one side to be Ahura Mazda, but
or Armenian Ormuzd.
Ormuzd, well, I think Ormuzd, Armaz are the same figures from Caucasus, but I think there is also another evidence of.
It's more like theory that Armazi is a deity from Hittite times.
Yes,
but sadly, we don't know much about Hittite linguistics. Sadly, but also we can go to the Western Georgia where the influences are a bit different. If we can talk about Oriental or Indo-European influence in the eastern part of Georgia, in the western part, we can talk already about vice versa influence.
Yes. Who influenced who?
Yes, because solar cults here in the eastern and the western both were strong, and let's not dive deep into it because solar cults were strong in every military society.
I will go deeper into it later on. So this is just to get baseline.
But let's go back to the Greeks.
Yes.
Vani, one of the cultural centers of the Western Georgian society and religion, is known to be carrying a big, vast Hellenistic archaeological evidences. But not only, we got a lot of pre-Hellenistic Western Georgian archaeological evidence, which carries same motives as the Hellenistic one. This is the exact copy of the statue of Tamada, the head of the feast which was found in Vani, and which is one of the proofs that wine as the divine drink was popular in Georgian mythology and religion, and as well as in the Western Greek mythology. But since the first wineries in the world so far are proven to be Georgian, the wine religion drinking tradition comes also from here. And let's not forget about Greek mythology, where we got a lot of characters who were originally from Colchis.
Yes. Speaking of it, I'll make a separate dedicated video.
And I hope you will invite
yeah,
me there too.
Deep dive about this topic. But speaking of sun cults, in Caucasus and in Georgia, sun is a female god, Barbale. Mythically, sun, Mze Tamze Mzetunachav, is a princess
which has never seen a sun.
Yes, it's
and
called
who is
Mzetunachav.
trapped by a giant or a dragon or her own father inside a big tower.
Yes, that is a
Archetype.
popular archetype, and we see all over Georgian mythology this narrative of princess being hidden by a giant or a dragon. But going back to the Greek comparison, we have found priests, sun priests, female sun priests, as Western Georgia was more influenced by early European farmers, priestesses, sun priestesses of agriculture were more dominant, and famous Georgian Colchian characters in Greek mythology are, of course, who? Medea.
Not only Medea.
Yes,
Yeah.
Medea, Pasiphae, and Kirke, who are one of the most powerful, or the most powerful, the most powerful sorcerers in Greek mythology are Colchian sun priests, or daughters and granddaughters of Helios,
god of sun.
Yes,
in Greek. Ayet, father of Medea, he was the king of Colchis, who was son of Gelius.
Yes, I think this is a Greek interpretation of what our sun priestesses were.
Yeah, let's not dive deep into it again.
There's a real deep line going into it about the triad and the symbology.
Yeah, like the female triads of gods that were famous all over Europe. We have Celtic triad, Gaelic triad, Georgian triad, etc., etc. But
going back to general understanding,
I'll go back to my set topic again. We don't know how it was pronounced or spelled in ancient time, pre-Christian times, because all we have is evidence from Greeks who are famous for changing names. For example, in the Osiric mythology of Egypt, they change Osiris into Dionysus and so on. And we have it from the Christian scribes from the Middle Ages and from the 18, 19, early 20th century writings of the vocular folk stories.
Yes. Speaking on the topic, unfortunately, Georgia, at least that we know of, had writing from 3rd century, our own, 3rd century BC.
For the legends, and according to archaeological studies, 3rd century AD.
Yes. But also, we also knew different scripts.
We have a lot of prescriptions and scribes and writings from Hellenistic times, from Roman times, Assyrians, for example.
So our people knew how to write, but unfortunately, none of them decided to write down our mythology. Or it's lost.
Yeah, because very sadly, Christianity here was spreading through spear and sword.
Yes.
And a lot of things were destroyed in fire.
Yes, this is really unfortunate, but I still have hope that one day our archaeologists will discover ancient writings. So only a form that truly survived about our own mythology is Greek and foreign writings. and a verbal, living history
Yeah, folklore.
told by ancient priests and
Yeah,
Hevisberi
the
and
tribe
grandfathers.
leaders
Yes,
and grandfathers and
stories went down from grandfather to grandson, which of course changed over
yeah,
time. And because we were one of the first people to get Christianity,
yeah.
our mythology was deeply influenced. And
Mountain
yes,
mythology.
mountain mythology, which survived the
Why did it
most.
survive? Because when you go with spears against the pagans,
Yes.
you destroy them in the valley, but try to go up to the mountains.
Yeah, we will meet you with giant clubs, and in the end, spears are cool, but clubs are cooler.
Yeah, of course. And
Yes.
there is also one interesting detail which I guess we will explore more while when we live here. Uh, it's the writings are lost,
Yes.
but like the art, the
Art.
drawings,
Yes.
the sculptures, the carvings we have,
Yes, there are a lot of surviving bronze statues that will show.
stone,
Yes, I've
for
been
example.
hopefully showing them on screen when I'm talking about different topics.
Yeah, for
And
example, one of the most famous is Trialeti Cub, which shows priests or heroes or deities with the wolf heads.
yes, that is my favorite personal. Priests who have wolves' heads and tails, which is a mythical narrative that talks about
Mamber.
Mamba, which is a wolf god in Swan mythology. There is also a story about mythical characters called the Kudiani and the Maktia, werewolves and tailed witches.
Tailed people.
Yes, tailed people. Who and Mukudari, that means dead, and Mukudari comes
Yeah.
from the word of Kudiani. So a undead, a psychopomp or undead creatures who walk the line between dead and alive and shapeshift into wolves. So
But the
yes,
kurgans of Trialeti and Svaneti, they are pretty far from each other. And
yes,
so
yes.
far as we know, the folklores in the regions differ. So that's the another question which we have arised.
So I hope with this rambling chat, we have at least given you some understanding of Caucasian mythology. But to overview, Caucasus is probably the origin place of a lot of ancient peoples that live today, such as Indo-Europeans, Semitic people, and early European farmers that spread agriculture to Europe. And we can find secrets of these people, secrets of their narratives through mythology. But due to our history of a lot of invasions and cultural influences, our mythology and history is deeply influenced by Hellenistic and
Persian
Persian and Iranic cultures, as we were stuck between these two
giants.
Indo-European giants. And of course, unfortunate fact that not a lot of surviving writings are in our hands today, and we rely a lot on uh, 19th and 20th century writings of surviving fairy
Stories.
tales, basically.
Yeah, which changed throughout the centuries, of course. And
Yes,
there are a lot of interesting archetypes, both unique for the region and the common in the world, which have their own twist,
yes.
which we promise, we will explore in the
In
in
the
the
future.
later videos.
Yes, one of my favorites being a clubbed storm warrior.
Comble.
Yes, be it Comble, or Comble is a fairy tale version, or Kopala, which is
Yes, mythological version.
ancient mythological version of a clubbed warrior fighting giants and dragons.
Hercules, but Georgian version. We
Yes,
can call
no, no,
it.
no. Hercules is
Yeah, I
much
mean
less.
the
Yes,
archetype club warrior who
yes,
kills gigantic evil creatures. But interesting fact is, as a spoiler for the one of the next videos, that Christians in the eastern Georgian mountain region still say prayers and give their offers not only to Christ or Saint George, but also to that mythological Kopala. And
yes,
why?
because yeah.
we will explore it later.
Yes. Next time, we will also explore the secrets of Saint George, the many-faced god of war.
And we are not afraid of using God with Saint George because
Yes.
it's Caucasian mountains. Everything is weird here.
Yes. Thank you for watching, and
Thank you,
stay
Bodo.
tuned for more mythology content. And thank you for our
It's always a
fellow
pleasure.
history warrior, Misha Shavalashvili, and of course, thank you to David and his Historical Military Museum. Check it out if you are in the area.
Yes.
Thank you. And by popular demand, I finally created Patreon. Thank you for my first patron, Nabel or Nabel. I don't know how to pronounce that. I apologize, but I greatly appreciate your support. So if you want to support my endeavor, go down into the description and do the thing that you do. My technological knowledge doesn't go beyond Steam engine. So slowly I'll figure out how to use the site, and I will use it to keep updates on videos, what I'm working on, get to vote on future projects, get behind the scenes and unedited stuff, and secret information about what I'm working on behind the scenes. I'm working on a lot of crazy different projects, games, board games, video games, comic books, this. I have great plans for the future, and if you want to be a part of it and help me out, because currently I'm doing everything through sheer passion, but unfortunately you can't eat and feed on passion. Any amount of support will be tremendous help, as I'm doing all of this out of pocket, and my pocket is burning a giant hole. So every support will go back into the videos to go get better equipment, go to cooler places, add more support and animations and art and all of this stuff. So if you find my stuff interesting, and I hope you do, I hope you will also support me monetarily. It will be greatly appreciated, and I'll try my best to give back all the support you will give me for my projects. Thank you, and take care, and watch this little clip I couldn't fit into the video, but I wanted to showcase anyway. Thanks, and take care.
Okay. Oj, oj, oj. Taikakunne. Här är det igen. In. Okay. Alright. It's a beauty.
It's the remains of the ancient 1,500 years Zoroastrian temple at Ishtar.
Yes.
As you can see, it's not quite well preserved, but better than a lot of other buildings from that period, sadly, here in Georgia.
Yes, but history is still alive here. And when you come here, you also have to help preserve history. I get you again. And two.
As you can see, once the most powerful religion in the region now has turned into ruins.
Yes, but there are still who practice the faith. Even in Georgia,
Not
in other regions.
pretty small number of them, but still.
Yes, it's a beautiful monument to history.
Indeed.